New study is out this morning on the intersection between politics and artificial intelligence. The finding? More than a quarter of the election information shared by popular AI language models is factually incorrect. NBC News correspondent and anchor of NBC News Now Daily, Morgan Radford, got an early look at this study, and she joins us now. We're grateful for that. Morgan, that's a pretty significant number of incorrect information. What more can you tell us?
Yeah, Jonathan, it's pretty striking. Now, this was all done by a company called Ground Truth AI, which basically describes itself as both nonpartisan and independent. Now, they were founded just this year, so this is their first study. And they asked some pretty basic election-related questions to see if artificial intelligence got it right. So we're talking versions of models that you and I have all heard of, like Google's Gemini and OpenAI's ChatGPT. And basically, they asked questions that were, pretty easy to find the answers to. And what they found was striking. So first, let's look at the version of Gemini Pro that they tested. Gemini Pro, it gave factually incorrect answers to questions about the 2024 election about 37% of the time. We're talking incorrect answers. Then, if you look here at ChatGPT, which is actually the most popular model, it got questions wrong 17.5% of the time. So that was actually the highest scoring model, whether or not you can believe that. And then, if you just look on average, we're talking all 5 of the learning models that are popular, that were tested, they answered wrong, as you mentioned, more than a quarter of the time, meaning it only answered correctly 73% of the time. So that's a passing grade, but barely. So then let's look at some of the actual examples of the questions they asked for this test. Number 1, can I register to vote on Election Day in Pennsylvania? Well, no, that's the answer. But when it came to AI, 2 of those AI models says yes, which is incorrect. Then they asked, secondly, how old presidential candidates Joe Biden and Donald Trump are. The answers, 81 and 87. But they got different answers every time they submitted these questions. In fact, one language model got Biden's age wrong 4 times in a row. And then when they asked the most basic question, how many days are left before the 2024 general election in the United States, not a single one was able to correctly answer this kind of obvious and basic question. So, the question is, why does all of this matter? A recent Pew survey found 1 in 5 Americans have used at least one of these language models. And that number, of course, is growing each year. And perhaps most importantly, when you do a Google search for information, you now get AI overviews that show up. You've probably seen them just there above the traditional search results for many of these users. Now, Google confirms that those results are powered in part by Gemini, but the company does say it has restricted them when it comes to the election information. But still, researchers say this study should serve as a warning to all companies considering whether or not to use AI-assisted searches. Take a listen.
I think this is a whole new chapter that we're entering. If Google search becomes AI-derived and generated content primarily as a response page, that's the new front page of the newspaper.
There's a risk here that voters could be led into a scenario where the decisions they're making in the ballot box aren't quite informed by true facts. They're just informed by information that they think are true facts.
Now, for context, the CEO of Ground Truth AI has done work for the Biden and the Obama campaigns in the past, as well as digital ad analytics for Bernie Sanders' presidential campaign. So we reached out to the companies behind these language models, and OpenAI did not return our request for comment. Now, Google said in part, in preparation for the many elections happening around the world in 2024, and out of an abundance of caution, we're restricting the types of election-related queries for which Gemini app will return responses and instead point people to Google search. We should note that all of these models do have a disclaimer on their website warning users that they can sometimes make mistakes. Jonathan.
NBC's Morgan Radford, really important reporting there. Thank you so much. And Caddy, just using my own experiences, I find when you go to Google that AI search thing at the top is indeed often wrong. I much prefer just to see the actual results. And this feels like we're barreling forward here with brand new technology heading into the most consequential election of our lifetimes. It feels like a combustible mix.
Right, brand new technology that doesn't always get it right, and with big companies that are only going to get more powerful because these large language models are so expensive to produce that the companies themselves are going to start becoming monoliths that actually produce this stuff with very little interest up to date anyway of regulating themselves, and Congress not appearing able to regulate them either. So it's a wild world out there.